Good morning, everyone. The deepest desire. What is it? What's your deepest desire? Really, it has to do with taking the yoke of God and placing it upon us. But really, what is that deepest desire? It could be a vocation choice that we're talking about. Could be just what we're talking, an instance right here today. But what's the deepest desire in our hearts? So before we go on, just thought I'd ask, how many people are too cold? Anyone? Okay, a few of you. How many people are too hot? Okay, a couple. All right, 1, 2, or 3. How many people do not want to be asked a question during the homily? Oh, there we go, majority. All right, fair enough. All right, so I just kind of like to gauge it and see who's cold, who's hot, whatever. So usually with, it's about 70 degrees is what I got set on. And our air conditioner is continuing. I'm wearing a blanket. All right, so it's a little warm for me. So, but I always like to see just where people are. This experience of, and for those of you who made the 4 o'clock last week, or maybe the 9 o'clock or the 7:30 here, or the 9 o'clock over at Sacred Heart, you would have noticed that I flipped the page incorrectly and ended up preaching on this reading last week. So sometimes that happens, not often, hopefully, but what I preached on, and I'll reiterate to you, and then kind of go on to what I said at the other masses this week, and that is that it's the deepest desire in our heart. Last week we put it this way: do you want to be rested? Okay. Do you want to be rested? Not arrested, but rested. So here we have Jesus turning an analogy completely on its head. He's saying that, if you take my yoke upon you, then I will rest you. So when an animal is worked, you put a yoke on the animal and you work it. You only have so many hours of it being worked, and then finally you have to rest the animal. Take the yoke off and you rest it. And Jesus is completely turning this analogy on its head, and he's saying, come to you who labor and are burdened, take my yoke upon you, and I will rest you. So he's also going on the knowledge that everybody is assuming that it's a double yoke, that there are 2 yokes there, and that the animal that's on the right is the one that knows where it's going and is stronger. So the one on the right knows where it's going and is stronger. The one on the left may be young, may be older, whatever, but it's not as strong as the one. So it's going to be led, and it's going to do less of the work. It's an excellent analogy for us, because the reality is that when God calls us to something, if we do anything good, it's 100% God's, and we have a portion of that. See, He gives us free will, He gives us an intellect, all of these gifts that He gives, and then He gives us the grace to cooperate with Him. Do you have something good in your life? Do you think it's 100% you? That's pride. It's not 100% you. It's not 100% me. I'm just a participation in the goodness that God has lavished me with. And I'm trying to participate and offer something back to Him. See, when we take His yoke upon us, then He leads and He guides us. That's the will of God. It comes in 2 major forms. One, His moral law. Okay, so He's unfolding to us through the power of the Holy Spirit and the revelation of Jesus Christ that's unfolded over the last 2,000 years. Are there any church teachings that you have a difficulty with? I mean, surely we do. Some of them. It's okay. You can question. Question is different than a doubt. A doubt is, I really wonder if he's truly present here. And so, I'm not going to go to Mass. Okay, that's a doubt. And that separates us from God. A question is, I really struggle with God's true presence in the Eucharist, but I'm still going to go to Mass. I'm still going to ask those questions. I'm still going to wrestle with that in my mind. I'm going to ask other people what they think. Okay, that's a question. 1,000 questions don't equal one doubt. We can question all we want. Okay, but when we get into that area of doubting, now we're finished really questioning. Now we're just doing our own thing. So we have that moral yoke. Jesus is saying, if you just take this moral yoke, you can question all you want, and I'm going to lead and guide you. See, ultimately, when we take that yoke, we get three things: clarity of mind, a strength of will, and joy in our hearts. True joy. So take my yoke upon you, all right? The moral side. The other side is vocationally. What am I supposed to do? What's God calling me to do? He says, come and take my yoke upon you, and I will give you rest, peace in the heart, clarity in the mind, joy in our life. So that was basically what I said last week. The clarification here is on the vocation side. You can actually see it in the moral side as well. What's the deepest desire in our hearts? I mean, if you want to take it from the moral side, how many times have we said this? I know that I shouldn't have done this. I know I shouldn't have done it. And I did it. I did it anyway. I was wrong. I separated myself from God in that act. Why did I do that? See, the deepest desire in our heart is to follow that clarity. From a vocation side, what is the deepest desire in our heart? Well, I mean, we all have natural desires. Maybe our natural desire is to come to church and just enjoy it and then go home. Okay, that's nothing wrong there. But maybe the deeper desire is to sign up to do something. What I don't want is to be on a schedule. And then, what happens if I end up getting scheduled and then I have a conflict in my schedule and now I've got to call somebody and take my place and, what I want is I just want to come to Mass, I want to be there, and then I just want to get out. But the deeper desire is to commit to something. To say, I want to be a reader. Or I'm gonna serve at the altar of God. Or I'm going to be an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. Or I want to greet. Or I want to help clean up afterwards. Or I want to really, what's the deepest desire? See, because when we give what God has placed into our heart, there is the clarity of mind, the strength of will, the peace of heart, and the joy. The greatest witness for Jesus Christ is a joyful life. And a joyful life comes from someone who has peace in their heart, who ultimately has discerned what God has asked them to do, what He has equipped us to do, and then we give it. There is the peace of mind, the peace of heart, the joy of life. And so I ask, what is it? What's your deepest desire? This could be all kinds of different things here. Again, vocationally, what is God calling us to do? I certainly wanted to be married, wanted to have kids. Looked like I was going to have a great job. No personnel issues in that job. Now I have 100 priests, 50 deacons, and about 70 employees, between the three schools and the two parishes. So, that wasn't what I signed up for. Well, actually it was. See, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that that's what was there until I asked, or until I started to pay attention to what he had placed in our hearts. Maybe it's a phone call that you need to make. Is there somebody that God has placed in your heart? Said, you need to call this person. You need to visit them. Is it something else? What is it? Whatever it is. It could be the smallest kind of detail. It could be the biggest decision in your life. The point is this. What is your deepest desire? What has he placed in your heart to give today?